We have a major Shane McMahon AEW update. WWE SummerSlam 2024 plans have been revealed, and a new match has been added to AEW/New Japan Forbidden Door. Stay tuned, it's time for the news. Terrible, terrible news for fans of professional wrestling, as it doesn't look like Shane McMahon will be heading to AEW, at least according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter.
The Observer has said, we've checked with a number of people on both sides high up on the food chain, and some noted that they'd never heard anything close to that, with others saying they were being asked all day about it, but heard nothing but what Conrad had said. They said that they could only say that on the AEW side, people who in theory should have had an inkling about it had apparently heard nothing, or said that they'd heard again what Thompson had said, but nothing independently.
Yeah, so it was sort of posed initially as a hypothetical-ish question.
Yeah.
But then word got out that Shane McMahon had spoken to some sort of ex-WWE, current AEW talent about the potential. It continues in the Observer. One person noted to us that there was a conversation between Shane McMahon and an ex-WWE talent in AEW, and it was described as not a pitch to get in or anything, just two people chatting where McMahon said something to the effect of, can you imagine if I walked out there on Dynamite, not as if he was pitching anything. They said it wasn't a serious thing, and that would explain why no key people in AEW had ever heard of it before Thompson talked about it. Conrad didn't talk about it seriously as if it would happen either, just that he had knowledge of the conversation. This is terribly depressing news, obviously.
We were talking about this before, though, and you uttered the immortal line in wrestling,
Did I?
and that's never say never.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
No, honestly, you look at the past 2-3 years
The amount of stuff we
wrestling,
go, that would never happen. It's happened.
We all thought, CM Punk's not coming back to wrestling. Yeah. Now we've got CM Punk, not just back in wrestling, but having gone somewhere else, WWE, which is no longer run by Vince McMahon. You can never say never in wrestling. I would be curious just because it would be bonkers to have a McMahon walk out on a competitor's television show.
Yeah, I just don't know how it would break the internet, I think, momentarily. I don't think it's anything you do for a sustained amount of time, but it would certainly be a bit whoa, this is just not something you were ever anticipating. Yeah, I just think it's exciting that Shane, it's funny that Shane kind of gets excited about stuff like that still, where he's just imagine, it'd be crazy if I came out.
No, that's cool though. He loves wrestling. We take the piss out of Shane all the time.
Get the Raven gif up with what a mark.
He legit loves wrestling, and in this instance, I'm going to go as far as to say he would be a draw. If you've got Shane McMahon there for a short period, people would want to see Shane McMahon in an AEW ring.
The Observer was also look, he did go talk to UFC once before. It's not something that couldn't ever happen, right?
Yeah, it could happen. It absolutely could happen. Yeah. And if AEW higher-ups had heard something, they wouldn't tell Meltzer. So there you go.
Do you know how you beat Joe Hendry's ratings? With Shane McMahon walking out and beating everybody on every episode of Dynamite for the next month.
Book it, Tony. You coward. We move over to WWE. Well, sort of, because there's a man who quit WWE. On Monday Night Raw this week, we saw Drew McIntyre come to the ring, say, CM Punk. I can't do this, I quit. And he's out of there. And it's all proper, realistic. Paul, the Vex in the background.
Later, Paul.
He says Paul, not Trips, as everybody else calls him. An update once again from the Observer. Backstage news regarding this quitting the angle. He says the McIntyre angle, where he quit the promotion, was always planned and not done because he had to go home due to his wife's health issue. Just in case you're aware, McIntyre's wife, Caitlin, was recently hospitalized, emergency surgery. And a lot of people were speculating that this is because
all kind of tied together.
Yeah, but apparently that was the plan all along. And it just continues to say, we were told that this angle was not related to that, and it was part of a planned story, but it did work out okay, as he's now home and can take care of her. We send our very best to Caitlin Galloway, of course. Hope she's doing all right. And obviously we've got CM Punk popping up tonight on SmackDown, seemingly to address his injury status. And he's going to give us a big update and see if maybe he's been cleared.
He had mentioned this to Fraser in the post-show press conference, that he was going to be showing up at SmackDown. So it's one of those where, fingers crossed it is good news, but I think it's not something we're going to find out. If he is cleared right now, I don't think we're going to find out the actual truth.
I don't know. Do you reckon Drew might come out and attack him? How cool would that be?
Oh,
it's a fakie.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It sounds like he's at home.
Yeah.
Also on SmackDown tonight, CM Punk returning to Chicago, as we say. How will Cody Rhodes respond to the Bloodlines attack? Expect a promo from Cody. LA Knight is going to confront United States champion Logan Paul, and Randy Orton, Tama Tonga, Carmelo Hayes in a Money in the Bank qualifying match, as well as Kevin Owens versus Andrade versus Grayson Waller in a Money in the Bank qualifying match, and maybe a little Wyatt Six stuff as well.
Surely.
A
load more people are going to get murdered tonight.
You need to capitalise on it. Everybody's talking about it right now. We fast forward in the year all the way to summer. The biggest party of the summer is SummerSlam, of course, and an interesting note from the Observer regarding SummerSlam plans as they stand.
Regarding Rhodes versus Sikoa and Paul versus Knight, they say, as things stand this week, both of those matches are earmarked for SummerSlam and not Money in the Bank as people had thought. The hope is that Punk versus McIntyre is going to take place at SummerSlam in Cleveland, but they were told that as of right now, it is a little bit up in the air as to whether Punk is going to be ready by that date. It was apparently emphasized to the Observer that he could be ready, but it's not like a lock. It's not a 100% sure thing.
We might find out tonight. Yeah. Stay tuned. I think a lot of us expected, certainly, Logan Paul versus LA Knight for SummerSlam. It makes sense, obviously, given the environment. And Rhodes versus Sikoa, we had a little bit of a tease for that. So we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. Maybe we get that sort of teased six-man at Money in the Bank.
Caesar ready to drop potentially, whatever Caesar is.
We certainly do. Yeah. Over to AEW again. This is spoilers, by the way, from last night's Rampage /Collision /Ring of Honor tapings. And a few interesting names popping up here. We're not going to mention the result of the matches that they're in, but some New Japan talent you can expect to see from those tapings. You got Gabe Kidd, who you're a big fan of, and he's a close personal friend.
Yeah, close personal friend, Gabriel Kidd.
Of course. El Phantasmo, who's a close personal friend of Sam Driver.
Of course, and we hang out all the time.
Shingo Takagi, who I think you went to school with.
Yeah, he's actually staying with me right now.
Is that right?
It's quite amazing. I didn't realise he'd left this morning to go to this.
Right, okay. In addition, a new match has been added to the AEW New Japan Forbidden Door pay-per-view, which is coming up next weekend. So during the taping, Chris Jericho and Big Bill's issues with Private Party came to a head, and the Learning Tree ultimately picked up the win. Jericho and Redwood then attacked Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn following the match, only for Samoa Joe, Shibata and Hook to make the save, and this led to Samoa Joe challenging Chris Jericho, Big Bill and Brian Keith to a trios match at Forbidden Door against himself, Hook and Shibata. I'm actually kind of looking forward to this one right now. I really, really want Samoa Joe to go over to prove that he is the better mentor. Because Jericho, that mentor role he's done to death.
Yeah,
Joe's killing it.
Joe's killing it, and I'm mainly looking forward to hopefully a bit of a stand-up performance here for Brian Keith as well. I feel he's somebody I really want to see more and more of, and more featured spots in shows. So this is just a win-win, isn't it?
Yeah, it could go either way. This one, I can't quite make my mind up.
Fingers crossed, Joe is going to get the win.
If I was a betting man, I'd probably be going for Jericho's lot, to be honest. Unfortunately. But I'm really looking forward to that. It's shaping up, on paper at least, to be a very, very good card indeed. So stay tuned for our coverage regarding Forbidden Door. That is it from us. You will be glad to know that I am still alive following this morning. I'm tougher than Chad Gable, who has disappeared for longer than I did. I was only gone for about 2.5 hours, so... Just kidding. See ya. Have a good weekend.